obviously all the cameras.
I follow you, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you're really good
that.
too, man. I check you out. You have some good content.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate
Keep up the
it.
good work.
With all the cameras, obviously the spring game is going to be nationally televised, the only college program to have ESPN come out here.
For real? I didn't know that. Say that again. We're
The only college program that's going to have ESPN come out for their
Wow,
national televised.
that's something, eh? Every kid in America is sitting right here, right? Every adult. That's not a distraction. That's a blessing. These kids want notoriety. That's the way they get to the next level. That's the way they get to the NFL. That's the way they get NIL deals.
Buff Nation, what up? BWB, my bandwagon Buffs. What it is, what it does, and what it's gonna be. It's your man's Harry Billion. To some, welcome to the Liberian perspective. T, the Liberian. L, perspective is P. And then we add the sports club. Liberia is a country on the west coast of the continent of Africa. You know that little circle part when you draw the map of Africa, that little gulf, that little circular area, Liberia's in there somewhere. That's the west coast. I'm Liberian. This is my perspective. I cover Coach Prime and the University of Colorado Buffaloes football team. I give my perspective on anything around those two. This is a sports channel and I do cover sports here, but for the time being, I'm covering just those two. In this community, the members are known as the club members, the TLP Sports Club members. They're very respectful, thoughtful, and insightful. I'll say that again. Our club members are very respectful, thoughtful, and insightful. How do you become a club member? You hit that subscribe button, you go to the comments and add your voice to the conversation. You're a club member. It's just that simple. Me and a lot of those club members, we consider ourselves BWB, bandwagon buffs. We're Coach Prime people. We're following Coach Prime, who's a new buff. So we're BWB, bandwagon buffs. You can be a club member and not be BWB. Not every club member has to be a BWB. Still add your voice to the conversation and you are a legit club member. When you're part of a community, especially this community, each member of that community can decide to be supportive to the community, bring resources or things that they see out there to grow the community so that everybody can benefit. If you have knowledge or something out there that you want to share with us, you can send that information to hottips4tlpsports@gmail.com. The information is right there on your screen. We're over 4,000 strong, on our way to 5,000. I want to give a shout out to a couple of people who are lighting up the hot tips line. They're becoming like my research team. My goodness, so supportive to me. Can't believe what these people are doing. The information that these people are bringing to help the community out. You guys need to thank these people along with me. I got nicknames for them already. I got a detective, my investigator. His name is Matt Reeves. Salute Matt Reeves. And then I got my prayer warrior, slaying demons in the spiritual realm. We war not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against rulers of the dark world, enemies unseen. My prayer warrior, Janet G. Salute. These are club members. I want to give a shout out to my sharpshooter. Go get him. Swansley. Salute. Had to say thank you to those three. Doing a wonderful job, sending me information, helping out the community. We about to change the game. I got some fire content coming, baby. All right, guys, that's enough business. You know what time it is. Let's work. Okay, so today we got to cover that press conference. The first practice is out the way. The pads were out. The players were ready to play. They had their first spring practice. It's out the way. It's in the bag. It's been graded. They had the press conference. So let's talk about it. I'm going to dissect a couple of things that they had to say. So let's go ahead. Let's get to work. Let's set up this press conference. The way that we consume sports information, we need to know everything. We need to know what people are thinking. We need to know what the coaches are thinking. We need to know what the players are thinking. We need insider information. We need to know what's happening inside the minds of the players and the coaches, the school, the organization. Us as fans, we need to be connected to the sport in some way. If we're going to be cheering for this team, if we're going to be using our resources, we work very hard at our jobs, all right? If we're going to be buying tickets, doing all of that, if we're going to be a real club member, if we're going to be a supportive fan base, we need to know what the state of the union of the team is. We know what the coach is doing. We know his overall plans. He's not going to give us the intricate details because then that will be given away to other teams because other teams are definitely listening. They do have spies at these press conferences. You know, not everybody's your friend, but us as fans, we need the general information. We need to know that the coach is on point. He has a plan. He's planning. He has a direction that he wants to go in, and the other stabs are all locked in. We need insight. This is what helps to connect us with our teams. Press conferences, interviews, all of these things, they help us to get that information. They help us to be locked in and to buy into whatever this coach has to offer. The leader of all of this is Coach Prime, Deion Primetime Sanders. We call him Coach Prime because that's what he's asked us to do. Call him Coach Prime. We all know that Coach Prime is a unique figure. Coach Prime is a unique human being. I dare to say he's one of one. He's 0 of 1. Like, no one is like Coach Prime. There are people that have personalities like him, but I've never seen anyone like Coach Prime. His integrity, his values, the things that Coach Prime think in his head, his way of thinking, how he carries himself, the standards and the things that he has developed over the years to guide his life. His faith, the God that he believes in. He's unapologetically himself. He's him. That's why a lot of people are drawn to this guy, Coach Prime. So this interview that I've seen at this press conference, this interview, you guys know me here, the decoder, Harry B, the decoder. For those of you who's been using the decoder, you got to a certain part of that last video and you were able to get the decoder out of that. Some people did not get that far. So you're not going to understand why some of us are saying decoders in the comments or why I'm referring to myself as a decoder. It's okay. Because there's a company out there that says, for those who know, know. For those who need to know, they know why I'm the decoder. For most of the club members, you know that I'm a media guy. I'm a filmmaker. I work in the media. This press conference is a media event. For the most part, everything is scripted. The questions could be vetted. Like the White House, you have the press secretary. I'm assuming the press secretary for the University of Colorado, that press secretary or that person that's in charge of the press or the press corps for the university, for the football team, that person will give a general guideline to the people that are in the press room, to the people that are even allowed in that press room. And they will say, these are some of the things you can ask. These are some of the things we are willing to cover because there are cameras everywhere. Everybody's listening. The press secretary, the publicist, is responsible for setting up the environment of that room. I don't know the name of the press secretary or the publicist. I tried Googling it. I tried asking Siri, but the information was not available. But you guys go ahead and drop the name of the press secretary or the publicist for the football team. But anyway, that person is responsible for setting the mood of the room, making sure that everything's on point, making sure that when Coach Prime comes in, the people are ready and they're ready to go and the questions are going to fire off because Coach Prime, he has things to do. So the people that are in that room are not always all going to be friendly. We got to keep that in mind. Everybody's not going to be friendly. Different people are going to be in that room. The people that are currently in that room for the preseason, for spring football, are mostly friendly, buff people. But I just want to let you know that that is going to change. When Coach Prime starts to win, when football kicks off and the W's start to come in, that room, the request to get in that room is going to be astronomical. You have to understand that. Right now, people are kind of like, okay, we'll keep a tab on what's going on. We'll just get the information from these other smaller papers. We'll just use that for now. We're not going to spend no resources sending somebody to Boulder just to cover the little spring stuff that's going on. I guarantee you, when the W's start to pile on, you will be hearing some different names in that room. This is just how press works. Everybody's in it for something. Everybody's in it to win it. You are in it to get the news of the day. Everybody's in it to break news. I guarantee you, we're going to be getting some resources on the grounds in Boulder. I'm working on that. But continuing on this line, the people that are in that room are not necessarily all friendly people. And as the room grows, as it gets bigger and bigger, it's going to get less friendlier and less friendlier and less friendlier. That's just the nature of the business. But right now, it's a bunch of friendlies. People that want connection with the university, people that want to be in the good graces of either Coach Prime or the university. Their resources are kind of connected. They know people in the same corners. They drink beers together. They go to the same bars. They go to the same restaurant. There's a bunch of friendlies in that room currently. I don't know about the Denver Post though. The Denver Post, they have some kind of an agenda. They're putting question marks in my head. The Denver Post. If you guys watch a lot of gangster movies, I've worked on so many gangster movies, my goodness. I got too many gangster movie examples, but there's this thing called casing where if somebody wants to do you harm, they'll case you. They'll walk around, they'll see how you move, they'll post in a specific spot to try to learn your weaknesses and where you're vulnerable. They'll give you some time. Once they learn that you're vulnerable in a specific place, then they'll show up in that place and take care of business. That happens in a lot of gangster movies, in a lot of cop movies. I feel like this Keeler's article or the Denver Post, I feel like they're casing Coach Prime. I feel like they're in the room. They're supposed to be friendly, but because they're the Denver Post. Coach Prime is the new sheriff in Boulder. The Denver Nuggets and Denver is like the biggest thing, right? So the Denver Post, the biggest newspaper that's in Colorado, you would think the fact that Coach Prime is bringing all these resources, all this money and everything, you would think that there would be friendlies, right? But I don't expect them to be all friendly. I don't. But it just feels like they're casing. Like you're there, you're going around campus and you're asking questions, whose stuff is selling the most. You get that information and then you're writing writing it in a weird way. It just feels weird. I want to show you the room. I want to decode the room, like what's going on in there. I wanted to give you more of an insight on the general feel of the press conference, because you guys have already seen the press conference. You got the DMVR people, they're friendlies. You know, they got their podcast, the DMVR Bus Podcast. You got them there, they're asking friendly questions. Because that room is so small, you're supposed to have a bunch of friendlies in that room. I think the Denver Post are friendly. I don't really know. If you're in Boulder, if you're in Colorado, are they friendly? Their article doesn't read friendly. It doesn't read friendly. Let's deal with it real quick. Coach Prime's got one thing right. Only numbers that count are on the scoreboard. So here we go, Keeler. The new sheriff of Boulder County rode in wearing a black cowboy hat, his right foot draped in a black socks, left foot stuck inside a cowboy boot, fashionably late. Deion Sanders disembarked slowly from his steed. Not a horse, but a black and gold Segway, adorned with his now familiar Prime 21 logo up the front and glittering CU gold hubcaps at the base. The left wheel featured Sanders' autograph, which spun as he rolled like the label on an old LP. Long play, like a record. Spins like a record. I think that's what he meant. What's the show I've been watching? The Buffs' new football savior asked a staffer Sunday afternoon to kick off the very first news conference of his very first spring on the job. Yellowstone, came the reply. Yeah, I'm sorry, Coach Prime continued. I've been watching a lot of Yellowstone. This explains everything. My foot is about to bust though. Favorite character? A reporter queried. Who would you think is my favorite character? Prime replied. I'm a boss. So who's the guy? John Dutton, the scribes replied. Thank you. How could you ask me that? But the daughter on Yellowstone, she's going to win an award. I mean, she's unbelievable. So yeah, this is new. The cowboy hat, the Segway, the swag. Sanders has been here barely 4 months. A southern man of God who landed in a northern hippie mountain town with all the fish out of water stuff that comes with it. Also, there's a documentary crew tracking almost every step, so behave. Sanders' headline writes themselves. Whether it's invoking his faith at a public institution or saying the quiet parts muttered at the NFL Combine out loud. Although Sanders' son Shador comes off as a fine, upstanding kid who also grew up with divorced parents, for every unwritten rule, there's a dozen of exceptions waving back. No, with Coach Prime, the actions are the tell. Bus football need a good flushing, to put it kindly, and Sanders rolled up a plunger in one hand with his Louis Vuitton in the other. Wrong socks. Get out of my weight room. Want a number this spring? Gotta earn it. I'm old school, Sanders explained. Anybody over 45 here? Back then, we had to earn every darn thing we got. Last fall, Fins left at halftime rather than watch a 1-11 football team finish getting clobbered. Now the Buffs are talking about not only charging $10 to watch a scrimmage at Folsom Field in April, but actually selling the thing out. Oh, and did we mention ESPN is carrying the thing live? I didn't know that, Sanders said. Tongue-in-cheek, playing it up. Say that again? You're the only college program, a reporter said, that's going to have ESPN come out. Wow, Sanders interjected. That's something. So with all the cameras, all the distractions, how is that a distraction? Sanders asked. He picked up a smartphone with his left hand. It's a blessing. Every kid in America is on these phones, right? Every day. It's not a distraction. It's a blessing. These kids want notoriety. That's the way to get to the next level. That's the way to get to the NFL. That's the way to get an NIL deal, name, image, and likeness deal. That's the way you change a narrative. About an hour before Sanders spoke, I poked my nose inside the CU fan store, the one across the concourse from the Champions Center. How's the Deion stuff moving? I asked. Did you know? The fella behind the cash register replied, that we're the best-selling Fanatic store in the country? Anywhere? Anywhere. That's what they tell me. That's the Coach Prime effect. There's a new sheriff around here, and the law's never going to look the same. That's the press conference from the perspective of Keeler, from the Denver Post. This is how they decided to cover it. It seemed a little casing-ish. It seemed a little, I'm your friend, I'm neutral, I'm on the outskirts, just know I'm a writer. I'm not about to go too deep into this, but it seemed a little weird to me. And I want to know what you think about the way that they cover this stuff. The way I saw it a little differently. I don't want to step out there and start bashing every writer that don't write anything nicely about Coach Prime. This is not about that, all right? This is not about that at all. It felt weird. I'm like, okay, so what am I reading here? It felt kind of weird. This is what I saw at the press conference. You have to know Coach Prime. Just like a lot of you here are getting to know me. You're getting to know who I am personally. You're now starting to understand how I'm wired, how I think, the way I handle things. I'm very passionate about what I do. I connect to the subject a little deeper than most. I don't just bring things and drop them off and then go to the next video. You're not seeing 2 or 3 posts from me every single day. Coach don't sneeze or breathe and I put a video out, because the stuff that I do, it takes time to process. I'm on screen, so everything has to look a certain way. Like I have to look a certain way. I have to sound a certain way. My process is a little different. But you guys are starting to get to know me. You're starting to get to know the Harry B personality. So you will know when I'm joking, you will know when I'm serious. You're starting to learn those type of things. It's very important to know that person. So a lot of us know Coach Prime because we've been following him for so long. The BWBs, we know Coach Prime. So in that interview, the people that are there for the most part know who Coach Prime is. They've been following him on a certain level. But some people there, I feel like Keeler doesn't know. I feel like the Denver Post, they either know and are ignoring the fact that they know and just want to stay neutral in their writing in a certain way. It feels weird. It feels like somebody who doesn't know somebody is just kind of there to just kind of like say, I'm just going to give you this information. I don't care. You can go ahead and fawn over your guy. You can go over and throw yourself around for this guy, but this is what it is. It's kind of like, it's a neutral stance, which I kind of like. But keep that energy though. If this is your energy, keep this energy. If you're neutral, stay neutral. Then I would enjoy you. I don't want to see some other stuff start coming down the pipeline when the W's start to stack up. I don't want you to change that energy. That's when I'll know you're phony. But if you show me your true colors, if you show me who you are, let me know that that's you. Nobody wants that neighbor that's going to be in front of them and smile, but then when they get home, they're talking dirty about them. Nobody wants that neighbor. That's why a lot of us feel uncomfortable in certain groups. What we know about Coach Prime is that Coach Prime is a genuine person. Whether it's at his own detriment or him helping himself, he is genuinely honest. Coach Prime is unapologetically himself. He's very honest. He's very open. We know that. A lot of us here know that. And for the most part, Coach Prime is enjoying his life. He have chosen. That way he doesn't go home with headaches. He's not going home dealing with things that he doesn't want to deal with. Like he's not trying to hide nothing from you. Because the people that practice those type of things, they get headaches. They got too much that they have to worry about. Did I say that last time? You got to now start tracking things in your head. Because when you're in the press, you got to remember what you said last time because you don't want to start contradicting yourself all over the place. It's very expensive when you are a new artist to be in this business of ours. Some people just wear white t-shirts and blue jeans because every time you step out, they got to snap a photo and you're wearing the same thing and it's not a good look for you. So if you're one that loves clothes and loves fashion, when you start this industry, when you start in this industry and you're a young artist or you are an artist that you just blew up and everybody now is interested in your photo, it's going to be very expensive for you because every time you step out, if you just wore something in the afternoon and you stepped out, you had some fun with your friends and then you plan on going out in the evening, you can't wear the same thing. Either choose a neutral color that you're going to wear, something plain with no logos that you're going to wear, or you're going to be buying clothes over and over again. It gets very expensive. You have to be consistent in the media. So if you're not honest, if you told a lot over here, you got to remember that lie that you just told. ESPN, their analysts ask you their question over here. It doesn't mean that Fox Sports or TMZ Sports is not going to ask you that question again. If you have any media training, you know that you're going to answer that same question, that one question 1,000 times, and you can't get mad. You don't have the liberty to get angry. So you're going to have to answer that question several times. You can't go over here and say, well, TMZ just asked me. Why don't you just ask them? That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. So the media is like that. If they ask you a question and you told a lie, you have to remember that lie 1,000 times. You have to tell that lie the same way 1,000 times. No variations. If you deviate, people like me, I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to analyze it. I'm going to decode it. And then I'm going to give it to 4,300 plus people. You don't want that heat on you. I promise you. You do not want that heat. I'm saying all of that to say that Coach Prime, he's very genuine. And I believe at a certain point in his life, he realized that just being honest, being truthful, and just laying it all out there, let the people decide how they're going to use that, has worked in his life. It works for him. He has everything on camera. Michael Irvins, God help him. If Michael Irvins, there was no video footage, imagine if the stuff that Michael Irvins is dealing with, if there was no video footage, if for whatever reason, the hotel just decided to just lose the footage or the equipment was broken and we don't have footage of that. If they decided to do that, Michael Irvins would not be able to vindicate himself. Now we all seen the tape. You've seen, it's right there for you to see. He's standing a little further. We can't hear what he says, so maybe he says something to her. But what could he have said in this cancel culture that would make him lose millions of dollars? It was their word against him. And without that tape, it would just be in our minds and they would be right. Coach Prime is putting it all there. I'm going to record it. You ain't going to catch me in nothing. I'll let you see it. So if you say I did something, if you said I said something, if I'm not this way, my tape will show it. My kids got me tripping on ice. My kids got me tripping going to the office off the Segway. You see me showing my toes to people. I'm showing you the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. For you to see it, it's working for me. You cannot say you don't know me if you follow my kids. Well-off media, reach the people. If you follow any of these people, you can't say you don't know my personality. You can't say you don't know that I joke around. You don't know that I'm competitive. I'm competing with my kids. I'm telling my kids they got to line up and who's going to be daddy's favorite. Like, he's that competitive. You see that stuff. He's genuinely open and it works for him. It's very important to know that though. If you don't know that, the way that he says certain things, the things that he says, you're going to take that out of context or you're going to write it in a way that is almost almost like this guy is full of it. But Coach Prime is who he says he is. When he's in the room, because he's so honest, because he's so open, he also sets the mood for his pressers, for his press conferences. When you get an honest person in front of you like that, person with conviction, a person that has high standards, when they come in your presence, it changes the way that you talk. It changes the stuff that you're going to say to them. It changes the way that you even think about what you're going to say. You're not just going to say anything to this person. For those of you who are Christians out there, you will know this. Somebody who spends time with God, somebody who spends time in the Word, and they have a strong conviction, when you get around that person, you will notice that they don't have to say a word to you, but you will not be able to say one cuss word around that person. Not at all. When you come into the presence of that person, the life that they live, the conviction that they have, there will be certain things that you can't say to them. There will be certain things that you're not going to come out of your mouth to say, and they don't even have to say a word. It's just how they carry themselves. You wouldn't know that. Your spirit and your soul will be connected to that. It's called conviction. They have a strong level of conviction. And that conviction, Coach Prime carries that into his press rooms. Coach Prime has a high level of conviction. So when you are around him, when you're in his presence, there's a certain way that you have to speak because he's so honest, because he's so open, he's so genuine. A lot of the reporters, a lot of the writers in that room, you can even tell, like you can feel the weight. You can feel it in the room. You can feel like people are on their best behavior. You can feel like because he's so honest, you're not going to do no gotcha questions because he will expose you immediately. Coach Prime will expose you immediately with his honesty. People are starting to get, they're starting to get the picture. People are starting to understand that Coach Prime is the no-nonsense type of person. When I'm watching the press conference, I'm feeling that. I'm like, man, this guy is commanding this room. He ain't got to say nothing. He's commanding the room with his conviction. When you live a certain way, your conviction will speak before you do. Your conviction sets the mood, how things are going to be. There are certain women, certain men, when you come around them, you can't play around with them. You are in a social environment. Some girls are looser than others. Some guys are looser than others. So you just know you can say any and all things to them. But then you're going to reach to a certain female, a certain woman, a certain dignified woman, a certain dignified man, and you'll know right away that the questions that you were asking Gallivanter over there, the question that you were asking Loose Jean over there or Loose John over there, you ain't going to ask those same questions. Baby, how your wings broken because you fell from heaven? No. Some people have a different level of conviction, and that conviction is going to set the mood for any conversations that you're going to have. That is speaking in the room. That's presence. In all of his press conference, that conviction is present, and that conviction is hovering over the room. It's guiding everyone. They don't know that it is, but it is. When it's saying, hey, no gotchas. You're not going to do that gotcha. He's too honest. He'll expose you. Nobody wants to be exposed on camera. The thing that Keeler's talking about, the cameras are around, be on your best behavior, it's not just about the cameras. It's about his conviction. Yes, the cameras are there, but in press conferences, cameras are there all the time. Cameras are everywhere. And regardless of the cameras that are in these press conferences, because that's what it is, it's for the press. If you go to a press conference and you are worried about cameras being there, so you got to be on your best behavior, then you don't understand what the press conference is for. When they say press, they're going to write about it. They're going to put it in the public for everybody to hear and see. So yes, there are going to be cameras, recording devices, all of those things. But what sets the room for the behavior is the conviction. It sets the tone for all the behaviors and all the questions that are coming. If you ask me a silly question, I'm going to answer that question with honesty and the realness. Why are you asking me that question? You should already know. You should know how I am. You know Coach Prime is that guy at the cookout. Coach Prime is going to be that guy that everybody gravitate to. He has the best stories. He knows how to break it down. He's competitive. He's telling you why you look like that. So Coach Prime comes in the room and he sets that out right away. That's what he's doing. Coach Prime is in there doing that. He's like, I like your glasses. I like what you got on. I like your swag. Coach Prime is giving compliments. This is something that professionals do to set the mood. When you give compliments, it brings down the defense. Behavioralists, psychologists, people who deal in the world of psychology and human behavior, whenever you are in a situation, you're in an interview or you are in a situation, when you give a compliment to someone, you bring down their guard. Coach Prime is a master communicator. Coach Prime knows how to control the room. He knows how to navigate the room. He knows how to set the mood for the room. When he sees certain people, he deals with them. He's not trying to be cunning or crafty. He's not trying to be deceitful. None of that. His honesty and his genuineness is going to be the guiding principle in the room. As a master communicator, you will know that if you're dealing with the press, those people who have an agenda, they have their personal agendas. When you come in the presence of those people, you can lower their guard by giving them a nice little compliment. Hey, I like those glasses. So let's go to one of the comments and let me prove to you what I'm talking about.
First off, I think you gave some restaurateur out there a great opportunity, by the way, you just laid out there for them. So
I love his voice. You see how things just changed with Coach Prime? He's got that voice, man.
The golden media voice, what they call the golden voice. They have that broadcast voice. He gives him another compliment. I love his voice. You see what I'm saying? So right there, that can click something. That can turn something in the head of that reporter. It might change the way that he asks his question. It may change whatever agenda he may have had. Some people are not malicious. Some people are not trying to be malicious. They may just want to just get the best answer that they can get so they can write a good story. If this person had whatever in their mind, that little tidbit, that little compliment serves Coach Prime very well. So when he says that and he smiles at you, gives you that smile, his face lights up and he gives you that energy, and now he waits for you to respond, that's something that communicators would tell you. That's stuff that people coach. Again, it can either come from coaching or it can come from his genuineness.
Obviously, all the cameras.
I follow you, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you're
I
really
appreciate
good
that.
too, man. I check you out. You have some good content.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate
Keep up the
it.
good work.
With all the
Coach recognized the guy. I didn't hear him say his name, but I think he's from 247 Sports. Coach Prime does something there that master communicators do because they understand that this is how you control the room. He knows that these are people that's going to be writing stuff in the press. They're going to be putting stuff out. If somebody was to come and they had an agenda, Coach Prime can usually de-escalate their agenda, or he can plant a little bit of seed in that agenda by giving them a compliment. So he says, I follow you, right? Everybody knows that for Coach Prime to follow you, he really respects you. For Coach Prime to give you his energy, he respects you. And he understands that what you do is important and it aligns with his values, because he's not just following anybody. He's not just throwing his energy out there to anybody. Just that alone puts something good in that person's head, and whatever they were coming with, it may switch that a little bit. Once you feel good and your defenses are down, could help you write a little differently. You now feel like this person is your ally. I respect what you do. If you put this person at ease, it could favor you when they start using their pen to do whatever they got to do. Maybe he practices so much that it's no longer a technique. It's not in his head as a technique. It's just a practical thing that he does. Because people are not used to just kindness. Kindness is something that's fading from our society. That when you're kind, when you're genuinely kind to someone in this new society with no strings attached, especially a lot of women who are used to guys coming on strong, and for you to say a kind word, it could be taken out of context. It could be like you're coming on too strong or stuff like that. It could just be taken out of context. But some people are not used to that. Coach Brown runs this press conference. The way that he answers questions so honestly, some writers are not used to this. Some people don't know how to deal with such honesty. There's a lot of coaches that want to keep a lot of things to the vest. They don't want to give you no insight. When you see their interview, they're giving you plastic answers, generic answers that just doesn't connect you with that person. You just feel like they're code. That's why a lot of these people, like, they have press offices that train them, that give them media training. They're giving them generic answers. This is how we want you to answer these questions. Like, I'm telling you, there are places, there are schools, there are organizations that train their leaders on how to answer questions in the media. They force the person to be plastic. They force the person to be generic. They give them these generic things to say. This is how you skirt a question. President of the United States, president of companies, when they step into the media training room, they will say, this is how you answer a question without answering that question. And they'll teach you in the media, they will teach you how to answer a question without answering a question. That's why when you listen to the press conferences of a lot of these head coaches, they feel real generic. It feels real plasticky. And you're not really getting true answers. You're getting stuff that's spinning your head. You're like, what? What are you talking about? What? First of all, that has nothing to do with the question, right? So that's happening in the media. When you get the contrast, when I say contrast, I mean a 360. When you get somebody like Coach Prime, who is so honest, so sometimes way too honest, like, you don't have to say everything. Hold some things back, please, Coach. Do me a favor. Like, I don't know what Rick George is going through. Rick George probably trusts Coach Prime at this point, but man, like, don't say that stuff. Oh boy, because they're so honest, they can get themselves into trouble in the media. You can't say everything. There's a certain point in the conversation where somebody asks a question. Coach Prime, again, is about to say the truth. He is geared up because he's such an honest person that he's just about to go for it. Let's play this part of the interview where Coach Prime is asked this question, and then this is his reaction. Let's play that part.
Hey Coach, Jake Schwan, it's DMVR. Just with all the players you brought up from JSU and everywhere else, and then the players that have been here at SCU, how do you feel the team has really been able to gel and get to know each other?
I was getting ready to say something, and God said, don't do that. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad I can hear pretty good.
He understands what's going on. He understands the room. He scans the room. He's reading the room. And he knows that certain things have gotten him into trouble in the past. I'm talking about the fact that single parent homes and free lunch kids may provide some type of edge for the linemen. So he said those things that people say in secret. He's starting to get into trouble for certain things. So here, his conscience or his faith, he believes that God just told him, hey, be careful. So now he's self-checking. He's doing those things that's self-checking. Coach Prime is aware. So I just wanted to give you guys this tidbit. I didn't want to go over the entire interview. As a public speaker, as Coach Prime goes through his stops, as he gets more feedback, he's now at the Power 5 where more major networks are dealing with him on an everyday basis. So people are starting to get to know him. At this level, the big boys level, the writing will change a little bit. And you will start understanding how certain questions are being asked, how Coach Prime is dealing with all of this. I can do a follow-up. If you guys want me to do a follow-up covering more of the press conference, let me know in the comments and I will do that for you. But I got to leave it right there. You guys know what I do here. That was the Liberian Perspective TLP Sports Club.